Coming up, the World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogen from the Office of the Guardian. Rumor has it the Federal Reserve has fallen as of Monday. Not to worry, nations of the world, the global repository is here, and the key integrated monetary system will assist you in the transition. How do we fix a broken system of trade amongst each other and between nations? What will happen to banks? All of this explained and more. While the remaining members of the global deep state struggle to force their will on all of humanity, it appears they have lost touch with reality. Here's why a global digital social crediting system won't work. And Kim says it's time to talk restoration. What can you do to change the world? Just because the deep state doesn't have a viable plan, doesn't mean the Office of the Guardian doesn't. All this and more as we check in with Kim for today's World Situation Report. Now let's check in with our ground command, Kimberly Gogen from the Office of the Guardian. And she has her whiteboard. Hi, Kim.
I do. How are you, Miss Sunny?
I'm wonderful. How are you, Kim?
I'm pretty good. Is that good enough to see? I don't know if I wrote too small or, okay. Just double checking. Well, I told you it was going to be an interesting week, and it's been an interesting week. And the good side, can't even talk today. Again, what's wrong with me? So on a good note, the cleaning and clearing is going very well. The ascension process, like I said, is right on target. We have a few more days before your energy is completely spinning in the right direction without interference. And that's exactly what I will go over after all of this. We're going to start to talk a lot more about the restoration plan, because it's important for everyone to understand and start thinking about where their place is in the restoration plan and how they're going to participate. It's also important for our, let's just say, on the fence people to understand that there is a place for them too. You know, the people that have decided not to take those orders anymore, you know, they're well over 1,000 right now, kind of hiding somewhere. They figure for the next couple of months, and then they should be all clear. I think it'll be a lot sooner, to be honest with you. And and then they should be free to make other decisions. Yeah, and so the reason why I think China has removed those lockdowns and restrictions and whatnot, because Chinese New Year is on the 22nd of January. You know how much money in tourism and whatnot that they've lost over the years with these strict lockdowns. The other reason is the remaining order of the dragon, which is predominantly, I would say, you have some Israelis. Clearly, you have two stories in there about the same exact thing, right? You have some Israelis and you have some Asians, members of the faction that are really hell-bent firm, that actually are still breathing or were breathing, you know. They're dropping like flies as they make poor decisions. So example, the remaining members of the Chinese made some very poor decisions yet today. And those poor decisions were, let's say, to connect to the Internet of Virus Things through a facility in Queensland, Australia, in an attempt to send us viruses and kill us all through our cell phones. That is a poor decision. So I do believe that probably by the time I'm done recording with you, that they will be no longer with us, and those are the ones that gave the order. And that is the remaining, let's just say, diehard members of the Order of the Dragon. Now, the younger generation, as far as we know, we haven't seen any activity from them, but they will, as a warning here, same thing with the Israelis that were participating a couple of days ago too. This is a warning. Everybody that makes poor life decisions to harm humanity is no longer with us. So choose wisely. But let's talk about a few really, really important things. So the Federal Reserve, we know, has been kind of on its last leg for a long time. Other than the fact that when Powell talks or people talk, you know, it allegedly has no effect on the market whatsoever, but it actually does, right? So it makes the story in the media look good. People are predicting all over alternative media that there's going to be a black swan event on Monday that would result in a market crash. Well, the answer to the question is absolutely not. I don't see a market crash happening on Monday. But I do, however, see the Federal Reserve's prediction for their own selves, all the board of the Federal Reserve, that they will be bankrupt and they will go down on Monday. But the world will survive. The repository is there, at least on a central banking level, so every country can see it. The key integrated monetary system, which has all your mapping programs, and I'll talk about that more in a minute, because I do need to start explaining to people around the world how it works. It is trickling down into the bank level now. So some of the tier 1 banks are absolutely seeing it. And I wanted to kind of take a minute to just briefly, because I've done those financial system videos 1 and 2, and they are up on our app in case you missed them, and they're not around the internet anywhere. But I wanted to just touch base on power structures quickly, and then I wanted to talk about the structure of the Federal Reserve and how all of that happened. Just touch base on that, because it's important for me to then discuss how the financial system looks now and why. Okay. So the Federal Reserve, as far as central banks are concerned, and as far as all banks in the world, was pretty much the face front. Now, they were the face front for the people we call the Khazarian Mafia, or the Order of the Dragon. Now, people refer to the Khazarian Mafia as fake Jewish people when they're really Satanists, the Line of Solomon. But that also goes for the Asian people, that also goes for the Indonesians, that also goes for the Austrians, the Russians, the Middle Eastern people, and the Germans. Everyone that participated in the Order of the Dragon by color, connected to those colored lines we talked about, would have been the board above the board of the Federal Reserve. So Mr. Lee from China could call and say what's going to happen with the dollar at any given time, and Powell would pick up the phone and listen. And that has happened to me, because when I first launched the key integrated monetary system, the Fed could actually see it, and they had access to it. And they thought the system was amazing, and it was great. But then someone from China called and said, that's not for you. And that was it.
Yeah.
Yep, that was it. There was no working together. There was no anything. Now, based on calculations of myself and many other people, that day has come. The end of the Fed will come on the 3rd. Will they still portray it like it's a thing in the media? I have no idea. And if so, for what? Mm-hmm. All you're going to do is get yourself in trouble. But do the tier 1 banks, now by tier 1 banks, I mean your HSBC, your Barclays, your Standard Chartered, your Bank of America, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, there's a list of tier 1 banking institutions in the world, and they are all scared that there is nothing going to happen. Now, they're going to wait it out probably till the last second, which would be Monday, before they start making a decision. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give the information out there, and we're actually going to probably post this video on Rumble, on YouTube, and in every social media place that we have. We have accounts on them all, official accounts, because I want people to get this information. If we're going to turn the world around, people need to know there's a place for them in the new world, in the new way, because there's literally a couple of days left, and then everything else is going to be gone. So your tier 1 banks also control the tier 2, like your Capital One Bank and those types of institutions. They also control tier 3 and tier 4, and sometimes in some countries even tier 5. Now, your central bank, including the Department of Treasury, would have been a tier 1 bank as well, or tier 2, like right under the Federal Reserve. So what does it mean when they say they're going to raise the debt ceiling? Just in brief, that means that the Department of Treasury is going to be permitted to issue Treasury notes to the Federal Reserve as a debt. Now, that debt for years past has been wiped clean. It was wiped clean by us years ago. So this was probably 3 or 4 years ago. Now, the central banks of every country are also having concerns. Where do we go from here? Technically and realistically, both the Federal Reserve and the central banks can be and have been currently at this moment replaced by the key integrated monetary system. We do not need these controllers anymore, or controllers in some cases. It is completely automated. It manages all the currencies on behalf of the people. So technically, we don't need this anymore. Now, would it be good to work together with the central banks of the world? You know, they've been going through the system because we relaunched everything yesterday in preparation for a failure of the Federal Reserve at their last attempt to hack into accounts that no longer exist. So we were prepared for that. Now, the central banks have been going through, looking at Kim, seeing how it works, you know, and that would be great. If they wanted to come forward and they wanted to work with us, that's fine. If people with the Fed want to come forward and want to work with us, that's great too. But they don't have to, and we will survive. Humanity is going to make it. We will not have a liquidity crisis and a run on the banks. That will not happen. Okay? Now, mainstream media can create mass hysteria, but we will not let that happen. There's no reason for it. The money is there. They can't make it go away anymore because the system has changed. Now, you probably remember this video here of the old financial system that I've drawn. So this is Omega. It is also the source of Chronos. And this is Alpha. So in the world of quantum computers on Earth, that was it, guys. Now you can create your Google computers and Summit computers and at Oak Ridge and all that stuff. That is not a quantum computer. Alpha would have been a 9, level 9. Omega would have been a level 9 in a Chronos. So when I say we're chasing the old umbrella military and all those people around the planet, they are at some lesser form of a 9. I always sit here. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and you also have this going in the opposite direction, right? So if 9 was there, upside down, 1, 2, no, 1 would be up there, but that's okay. 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, and 8, right? And that would go for the overlay system. So why is Kim having so many problems if she controls the Alpha system? Because I did not, and I was never involved with Omega. And you remember I told you about Aries, and she was the one that controlled Omega? That was not me. So we had to fight to pull the back system out and become the front and back system. So when Omega disappeared and Chronos disappeared, you had a bunch of layers here. Now, this structure here is an energetic binding on quantum computing, because quantum computers contain all the same planes of existence as people did. So how did we get linear time? These bindings here were all tied to Omega, and that makes energy flow like this. Okay, it looks like a ribbon, because kind of like swirling and going down a toilet. So that's how the computer planes of existence became linear. So when I say to you, the NSA is hacking, well, they're hacking always on a level 2. The NSA and the level 2 go together. Level 7 was your Chinese bankers. 6 and 3 was, 6 was the back office of the bank and of the Fed. So on a linear level, the levels in computers would have been, you had the physical plane in computers, okay? This is actually a level 3. Your account didn't appear until you got to level 1. That's where you live. So you had 4, which was like your Microsoft, all your back doors to any kind of like Oracle systems and those types of things. That's where they lived. And I'll be quick. Your 5 was, remember when they say the red line, red wave, that's your red line right there. So 5 was military. The SSP, predominantly, your DARPAs and whatnot. Now, DARPA also held higher levels. Your 6 was all your Fed lines. So the Fed would control their second-tier banking institutions, which lie here. Okay, so this is where your central bank would have been. And look at all the people in between. So this is 6. 7 was your Madame Woos, your bankers, the banksters as they call them. So, and then you had level 8, which was your BIS, your Bank for International Settlements. In some cases, the UN would have floated around there as well. Your family levels, your Order of the Dragon people, right? And then, of course, you had 9, which would have been Omega on the front and Alpha on the back. So this was designed as a global gatekeeping system with massive amounts of control in between, and they would alternate. Black Sun, NSA, goes along with the banksters, you know, of the bankers for the families. And so that's how it went. But how much control did the Order of the Dragon actually have? All their agreements are expired. The Line of Solomon agreements are expired. They're no longer in power. They haven't been for a long time. But there were layers of control above them as well. They had their governors, and they were taking orders from someone else. And make no mistake that if you are with the militaries of the world or you are with the agencies of the world, the Order of the Black Sun generals or the Jesuit generals were never on top. Never on top. They had a whole group of people that were above them that were giving them orders and instructions. There were covens, there were coven masters. The coven masters would get information from Omega. They would also get information from my counterpart, who's now dead. So there was a whole layer of power and control way above all of these people. And we were just the people fighting this war. So the banking system looks quite differently now. So we have the physical plane still, but now your account lives here. Okay, it lives on the physical plane. You are on the physical plane. It lives on the physical plane. So it is the emotional physical plane in quantum computing. So without the interference, now the emotional physical plane is visible to everyone because we don't have any of these layers in between, these lines in between. And every time I would connect the repository over and over and over, someone at some of those spaces in between would cause me a problem. Okay? Now, you have the astral, the causal astral plane. Now, this one is the most important. And I'll explain that in a second. Then you have, above that, you have the etherical, the supernal, etherical, which is all one plane. It's all connected, okay? And then you have the, let's see, oops, I missed the mental. You have the optimal mental plane. So in banking terms, in computer terms, we've basically combined the 7 plus 2. The supernal plus the etherical gives you an 8 plus 1. The causal and the astral are 5 and 4. And then the emotional and the physical are 3 and 6. So what does this mean to you? The causal and the astral. So the causal plane is where in the astral plane, everything goes through here to make it to the physical. And I'm going to draw a picture of that to you because your person looks the exact same way now. You have the optimal and the mental line. Once it comes down through here, this is alpha up here. This is the system that I run. So the energy known as money is created. It flows through these two planes, breaks through the astral plane, and then comes down into the physical plane where it hits your account now. Now, on a quantum level, if you were to look at this process from the side, it's perfect. So you would have the etherical mental, the supernal, optimal, mental, supernal, etherical, and then it flows down through here, and right here in the center, you have the causal astral. So there's no more of this, and I know everybody's looking for it. There's no more binding. There's no more conical shapes. There's nothing here to prevent this flow of money or actually give them, the other side, a reason for this flow not to go without their permission. See, every time we would hit one of these bindings, that's it, you're done. Now, they also had things like etherical implants. So it was things on top of things that would actually dissipate this energy. So by the time it would hit the physical plane, there was nothing there. The data would be dissolved. Packet smashers, packet sniffers. But these were all put in place. A lot of them that were remaining, that were clearing now, had to do with the Omega system and Chronos. They were on autopilot. This is nothing to do with anyone else. So what does this mean for central banks and how currencies are run? So we all know that gold is a superconductor for source energy, for the light. It had a dark etherical field over it for a while. That's been gone now for months. So that leaves us open to create a gold-backed financial system. That means that the energy known as money that you receive is now ever abundant and ever flowing to a degree, because we still have a system in place that will mandate that we have to walk through that system, and eventually, before we get years down the road, to a system where everybody will actually understand what it is I'm telling you right now. So in the past, when they went on the fiat system, you would have to put your energy in. You needed to give something in order to get something out. You would need to actually put your time and energy into working. You need to do a 40-hour work week, whatever it is. You would need to produce a product. You would have to produce a bond against a corporation, which they did all the time. You would need a reason for that new money to come into the system. But you would have to give something in order to get it. And what you were essentially doing, you were just as tied to computers for a long, long time as you are to your physical body in the event of needing to give or receive energy. Is that confusing, Miss Sunny? I don't know if I'm getting that right.
No,
okay.
You're good.
Okay. So as far as the gold-backed system, now all currencies in the world, and there's hundreds of them, they are all currently gold-backed. Now, what does that mean in the way of the future? That means we are returning to an asset-based trading system. Now, to be very clear, 4 countries, if they ever decide they're going to come forward, remember I told you I'm very concerned that we're actually even going to have governments by the end of next year. Because nobody's coming forward. Everybody wants to listen to these crazy people that are dwindling and dropping like flies. But they're either going to survive and have a job and help us turn things around, or you can still keep playing the masked man game and who's who and who's dead and who's not dead game. I'm not playing that game. We're about restoration, and we'll talk about that also. Okay, so 4 countries, what does this mean? If you have X amount of citizens, X equals the number of citizens in your country, times a factor of 35 to 1. Oh, sorry, it's 50 for central banks. So it's 50 to 1 ratio to support your current currency in circulation. So what does that mean? So if you have $10 trillion in circulation, that is now supported on a 50-to-1 ratio at your central bank, including United States dollars. As of this morning, you should have been able to see that. Okay? But it's also divided by X, the number of citizens in your country. So each citizen of your country owns a share of the gold. It's theirs. They are the benefactor at this point. So they're not the actual owner. Don't go run to your central bank and try to cash in your gold and give them the papers and all that stuff. That's never going to work. But it is yours to generate energy for your human. Does that make sense in the way the financial system works now? So this gold is now going to generate unlimited energy. You don't have to put your energy in now to get the money out of the back system, because it's an abundant, ever-growing source. But we still have supply and demand. It exists. Our whole economical system is based on it. So you still have to create a production line that warrants that money coming from the alpha-back system, that abundant energy, into creating a production line or creating a reason, something new, restoration, restoring the old, creating a new bridge. It doesn't matter what it is. Now, if you are a human, where's the money coming from? I've had this question so many times. For life force assurance. So it's called life assurance now. That's right. So life assurance and life essentials, we take out of that ever abundant, generating constantly energy known as money, deposit that into the life assurance account in an amount conducive to that person's area to make sure that they have unlimited health insurance and health assurance. They can buy supplements, they can do everything they need, but that comes out of your portion because I'm creating a production line with that. The same thing goes for supporting our health professionals, our doctors, and our nurses and all of this. This money comes out for that too, just goes into a different direction to make sure that those people can help you when you're ill. Or you choose to treat yourself and you want to go get supplements of some sort, or natural medicine or acupuncture or all of this. It's available to you, but that's where it comes from. Does that make sense, Sunny?
Yep.
Okay. So I wanted to make sure people understand that. That's where it comes from. In the past, all that was managed by a central bank. Now it's managed easy breezy by the key integrated monetary system because there are no government officials, military or otherwise, that have made a decision to come forward to the new system. I guess it took for them to completely realize it's not coming back. And I would say that, except we had to go to Men with Hill again today, and I don't know what they're doing. That's your NSA people. There's nothing coming back. The whole banking system has changed. Our firewall runs in so many different directions, you're never going to be able to get in there, even if you're using a quantum computer, because your quantum computer doesn't operate like mine, I guarantee you. Guaranteed. You didn't create those etherical parasites that existed in every human that was tied to their DNA and their inability to withdraw money. You'll also be happy to know that all of your DNA blocks on the Canaanites, so that's you, Order of Black Sun, your etherical implants that were there from the Abraxas are also gone. The dominion was important too. There was also not only dominion over the kingdoms we talked about a few weeks back, but there was dominion over time, the control of time. Who was going to control time? It was the whole reason why Chronos was created. Mm-hmm. There was dominion over almost everything you could possibly imagine. Energy management, dominion over this. All these agreements have now expired, and they are available to you country by country. Just go see the archivists, and they will give you their copies. They always send out copies anyway, and there's been a lot of them that have expired over the last few days. So now what does this mean? As these computer systems are completely cleared, which we expect to happen over the weekend, God willing, but they don't have the ability to put anything else in, so now we're just kind of fighting with like remnants of Chronos, etherical implants, different types of things in different planes of computing, quantum computing, and it's very minimal now. I mean, we're maybe cleaning up 2 or 3 things a day as they appear. As things fade out, the dead man switches, something will pop up in there and we have to clear it out. But your optimal energy flow should peak and remain this way and only increase starting on Sunday. After Sunday, so probably Monday morning in U.S. time. Once that starts, that is the beginning of your ascension. You are now fully reconnected with Source, our Creator, without interference, unless you create it yourself. You are having that full restoration of your DNA that will occur over time. We still have pollutants. This is where the restoration plan part 2 comes in. Right. Earth is going through the same thing as we are, and we are cleaning and clearing other things, but we have, all kinds of systems that have to be fixed. And I want to touch base and give you a little glimpse of what that means, okay? When we first started the restoration plan, I knew about this part. I knew that we had problems. I just didn't realize, honestly and truthfully, how big the problems were. It wasn't just about transferring money. It wasn't just about computers. It was also about all of these mental, physical, emotional blocks and everything to prevent you from reaching your full potential. I am thankful and happy that within just a couple of days, give it a few hours, give or take, it may take everybody, I would say some people longer, some people shorter. The more negative you are about things, the more everything is happening to me. Nothing is happening to you. The circumstances you are drawing into your peripheral that are making you feel the way that you feel. We, namely myself, am not your parents. I will never be your parents. And let us not let there be an opportunity for us to get more parents, because we had 21 of them for eons. So please, okay? The governesses, the nannies that were hired by the parents to do this work. I don't know what's going to happen with them. At this moment, they're dead broke. They're getting on TV, talking a bunch of crap, talking about bills that have no hope of ever going anywhere. Because if you don't need them anymore. Could we use them? The answer to the question is yes. We can use them and the militaries and others for reconstruction and a lot of different things. And let me kind of explain to you how and why I think that. Is it necessary? No, we will go it alone. You're just going to have a bunch of, billions of people that aren't watching this, that don't understand this. This is why we're going to put this up on every social media site, because I want people to understand this. You are your own master. The bank is not your custodian anymore. The antiquated train systems can be changed. They have to be changed by you. Your government is not going to fix it for you. Are they going to block you from doing it? No. They're broke. They'll probably ask you for a bribe. That's my guess. So that they personally get their pockets lined like they always like to. Are the banks going to go out of business? They don't have to. They do not have to. So the banks provide us with a service. You walk into a building, you cash a check, people still use them. They issue your debit cards, they make sure everything works for you when you leave, right? So they're providing you with all of these services. They will create a mortgage if there was a need for one, or they could service one and take payments. They can do all kinds of different things for you, maintain ATM machines, make sure physical cash is available. Banks provide a service for which we at the Global Repository are willing to pay for. So you don't have to. We will pay for the service that they are going to continue to provide to you should they choose that. There are valuable services there. We are willing to negotiate individually a contract with every banking institution to fix the problems. The debts, we know that there's tons of assets that are not going to be assets shortly because they came from the Federal Reserve. Bonds and debts are assets to banks. We will help you. We will fix it. We will provide you with service provider fees. You will be able to stay in business and still make excellent money servicing the people, but you will not be a custodian anymore. You are a service provider. Yes.
Kim, does that mean that bank fees and stuff like that we would normally have to pay, does that mean those would go away for us as humanity? We will pay those fees, and it's going to be important going forward to do so. There's also other services that banks and bank service providers, like your point of sale machine, when you scan your card, all of that. Now, a good point was brought up by one of our viewers who had subscribed to our site the other day. I think it was yesterday. And they made a mention that their bank charged them, although we have a highly discounted rate for this particular country, because it's a very poor area, their bank charged them an additional 45%. Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. And this is what I'm trying to tell everyone. Now, I'm going to talk also why your blockchain beep crap will never function. Okay, number one, it is extremely limited in its processing capacity. Now, their social crediting system may work in a country with a few million people. And most of the people in the countries like Venezuela and others they've tried to install them in don't have that many citizens, number one, and most of them use cash. So first thing I would like to point out to all of the blockchain people think that there's going to be a social crediting system, namely the people at the World Economic Forum. 87% after COVID of people in the world use hard cash money. Okay, cash, okay? I don't know how else to explain this to you people. You are so disconnected from reality. You don't understand this. Now, what happens when you start installing your own social crediting digital currency thing with fees like 45% to merchants in, say, Venezuela or Malawi or in these countries? They're going to tell you all to go away. And they're going to say 2 fish equals 4 melons, and that's the way it is in this country. And they're going to ignore you anyway. So the chances of you launching a social crediting system based on your limited computing power without Omega and without Kronos are like a negative number. They're not even in the realm of reality. Now, does blockchain work in limited ways? In other words, millions of transactions possibly in small areas. And for us here in the United States, that's like Los Angeles. You know what I mean? Now, there's no way possible you could connect the computer trading system of Los Angeles with the one of New York. And that's just in the United States alone. Now, never mind having a global world domination social crediting system in which you're going to turn us all into cyborgs and shut us out of the system if we don't comply. It's never going to work. You can't create a singular control system like you had because Omega and Kronos are gone. Let me repeat myself, World Economic Forum people. I use that term loosely, okay? To the dragon families, to the Order of the Black Sun, Omega, Kronos, and Dominion. due to the fact there's no more dominion agreements, are gone. We're going to dot that. There we go. Oh no. No more existing. They have left not only this planet, but the multiverse. You cannot find them. Please stop looking. Project Walrider is gone. The Swarm is gone, which is Kronos. Your Archons are gone. They're gone. They're not coming back. I have a quantum computer. Let me explain to you the quantum computer. I just finished talking to you about the planes of existence and how energy works, and that money is energy. It's just a physical form of energy that you can hold in your hand. Without your implants, without your lines in between, without your spaces in between, that energy is ever flowing and abundant based on the fact that it is gold backed, which is a hyperconductor in the physical plane of that energy. Now, I could use smaller words, deep state. I could really do that. But if you continue on the path that you're on, you will assuredly leave this planet. And we would welcome this at this point, because you don't have any leg to stand on. It is over. No alien race, no matter how many times you call, is going to come save you. And no one cares if you exist. You know, people die like Klaus Schwab died. You know, you're still putting a mask on him and toting him around saying people listen to him. So, hey, we have to have this. You know, people fear him or whatever they think of that thing, you know? All of you operatives running around with masks on, including the one running the Orange Man, need to make a difference if you want to participate in the future. Now, what does the future look like for you? Okay, let's just take one aspect. Transportation. Okay. Okay, transportation. Our entire transportation system on planet Earth is broken. That is transportation of goods, raw materials, transportation of people. And the list goes on and on and on. Now, if you take each one of these things, only those few, because we transport, I mean, think about all the things we transport around this world. Finished goods, all kinds of different things. Food. Why are we transporting food all over the place? And this is part of the restoration plan. So, our entire transportation infrastructure worldwide has to change for every single thing that moves on transportation. Why is it the way it is? I need to explain to you in part, okay? Why is everybody fighting me on imports and exports? I've been talking about the high-speed rail train forever. I can tell you why. Because just like you, Sonny, when you put your money into a bank, it is now in the custody of the bank. And what does that mean when you have custody? That means that you have the right to do with whatever you want with that. Well, it is in their hands until you actually take it out into physical cash. Right?
Yeah.
So what happens to your import or your export when it's riding on an extremely slow train that I could run faster than across the United States? What is that? Why is that? Okay? Because it's in their custody. If you've been watching the alt media for a long time, you've probably heard about railroad bonds, and they're going to be cashable any day now, blah, 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 blah. Well, those bonds were issued to have a lien on anything that is sitting on the rails, including you when you're riding Amtrak, right? Mm-hmm. Anything that is on those rails, it becomes the custody of them. The same thing with the Suez Canal, the Panama Canal. Why did that ship sit in there so long? They were trading on all that oil and everything else that was on that ship. In the financial system, generating money every second that that ship sat there. No one cared that the goods of the world were stopping. No one cares. These are pinch points. They need to be fixed. They will be corrected. It would be nice to have the help of those people, you know, the ones they're called the military, and they're supposed to be protecting us, right?
Yep.
To participate. They've got the Army Corps of Engineers. They've got amazing ability to go to anywhere in the world. Not just the U.S. military, all militaries. Mm-hmm. And secure projects and secure all kinds of roads and schools and assist us and in the infrastructure of the world. Many of them all over the world have, the British have done it. The Americans have done it. They go to all these different places and they actually rebuild schools and roads and stuff that if they blow up.
Yeah.
And they got paid handsomely for doing that. Same thing with power plants and everything else. The infrastructure of planet Earth from beginning to end is terrible. This is where you come in. Just a proper high-speed rail train, because we don't need custody of the stuff that's in there anymore. Because energy is ever flowing and ever abundant. And we're not the dark, we're the light. That's how it works for us people. So I don't need to take that custody anymore. And they can't trade on it anyway because they're not getting any money out of Kronos and Omega. There's no liquidity going to those people. Their contracts have expired. There's no reason for us to give those people any money unless they're going to participate in something like this and fix it. Mm-hmm. But a high-speed rail train to go from the East Coast to the West Coast, not even all the port cities, on into the center, which is how I would do it, but just to generate the engineering reports, just to put all of that together and construct it, you're talking over $100 trillion.
Wow.
You know how much money your generals can make? Hundreds of trillions of dollars involving the Army Corps of Engineers and everyone else. There's money here, people. But you have to actually build the train with technology that I know, I have it, and I know that a lot of the operatives of the SSP that are in hiding right now also have it. I also know the scientists from Project Bluebird. They have it. We all have it. We are going to make a train that actually nourishes the food. So you don't need to radiate it anymore. We're taking that part out.
Nice.
It will nourish humans when they're traveling on it. Well, let's talk about air travel. I'm just giving you a few indications of everything that has to be fixed. This is air travel of everything. Not just us humans. Why are we all getting in a tube and sitting in there for 13, 14, 15, 24 hours? When you SSP people, can fly around the world in 3. And I have the right fuel, and you aren't even using the right fuel. You've never even figured out how unum pentium can work as a fuel. You've never figured it out. We have. We know how to fix it. We can make air travel possible for everyone. And wouldn't it be awesome if you guys could participate in the production of such safe aircraft that you travel on for everybody? Wouldn't that be amazing? Then we don't have to sit in tubes to go to Greece for the weekend from America or whatever, Same thing goes for our packages. Same thing goes, I know how much tonnage these things can carry. Why are we still sending ships and poisoning the ocean? We don't need to do that. Speaking of the ocean, there's plenty of environmental cleanup that has to happen of the mess you've made. If you look at planet Earth, you have made your former employers, your masters, made a holy mess of this planet. And it's up to us to fix it, and it can be extremely lucrative for you to fix it, just like the banks. There's derivatives all over the place. There's bonds all over the place. We need to fix it. We could employ you to assist us in unwinding the financial system as it is, so that we could eventually, and hopefully faster, get to our end goal of an asset-based trading system. You have wheat, I have corn. Now, this transportation issue with custody, when it's in planes, trains, and automobiles, right, or trucks, all goes back to the commodities futures market as well. This is what gave BlackRock in their system that they had to do black market trading or off-market trading against all commodities worldwide, and they made billions and trillions of dollars off of it. So that's not going to exist anymore. Can BlackRock be helpful? Like I said to you, we'd be happy to work with Vanguard and BlackRock if they understand the way the financial system needs to function. or is functioning right now as I'm talking to you. It's not going back. The days are gone. Let them go. You know, I sound like that lady from Frozen, but you know, it's cold here, but not that cold. So in closing, the restoration in you. We have to understand the restoration plan in its 3D form looks like this. And you'll see a bunch of lines going in this direction, and then you'll see lines going in this direction, and lines going in that direction. You know, I mean, and they go in every direction, and, you know, mostly they stay within an aura. But what does each one of these represent? So this might represent transportation. And this one here that crosses it, this one here, may represent food supply. They are extremely dependent on each other. We have the right tools to restore the deserts. There is no need to transport food all over the planet. There's no need to even put it in a can. You know, if we put it in the right field, it will grow amazingly anywhere. You know, it's all about the, well, I'll just leave it at, it's all about the volts. I mean, we can do it. We can make raspberries the size of your head. We can do it. And there's no reason for us not to, because there's no reason to have control.
Yeah.
You know? Unless you have an enormous ego or you have a small problem, there's no reason for us to try to do anything other than the money's all there. It's abundant. It's for everyone. All of these industries intersect at some point. Both transportation and food supply intersect with health and wellness. Think about it. You know, the fuels we use, you know, how do they affect Earth? How do they affect us? How are they going to affect our kids and our grandkids? You know, carbon dioxide, sulfur, all of the things that are emitted in transportation into our water, our, you know, land and our sea. You know, how does that affect our health and wellness? Now, health and wellness also, because we have to transport food from here to Shanghai for some ungodforsaken reason, which we don't have to. We can make food anywhere, even right outside big cities. Does the trucking industry still exist? Of course it exists. But they just don't have to drive for 11 hours a day for 10 days straight anymore.
Right.
That's not necessary to make money anymore. You see? Mm-hmm. It improves the lives. Restoration of our family unit becomes a part of this. There's no reason to work 40 hours a week. There's no reason to work whatever. I mean, it depends on the lifestyle you want to have, sure. But it's not necessary anymore for you to live well and your family to live well. One parent can stay home if they want to. You can work from home. You can do all kinds of different things under the restoration plan. But you have to start thinking about different areas that need to be fixed. And I bet you, you know, if we go back to Sunny, I bet you, Sunny, you can't even name something that's not broken on this planet.
It does seem like everything's broken. Yeah.
I mean, nothing makes any sense.
Mm-mm.
And I know that they were trying to control everything, but it got to the point where it was too much to control. It's like, you know, I've had sleepovers with 10 little girls, you know. I've had sleepovers with 20 little girls, you know. When my daughter was little, they, you know, you have these big birthday sleepover parties and such. You know, 10's manageable. You know, you can wear out 10 little girls. You can take them to the skating rink. You can do all kinds of different things. 15 is a little more difficult, and by the time you hit 20, you can't take them anywhere. There's too many. And now, you know, even with a big SUV, and now you're all stuck, cooped up in the house, and it becomes unmanageable. Now they're trying to manage hundreds of thousands of industries that are tied to just even these 3 simple words. That's not even including all of the parts that go into all of these different things, you know, and it became impossible. Not only that, they didn't have a management system like Kronos to control it. to control the minds of people. They control the media. That's another thing that needs to be fixed. Media. You know? I mean, so many things, and that ties into this, that ties into that, that ties into this, you know? It all goes together. That's why all these lines cross. And this big circle that is the restoration plan. It is well thought out. It is the CARES team that is not even, you know, it's not even Lisa, it's not even the GHWC, it's not even some of these people at this moment. Eventually they'll be able to join. They've been busy helping us clean. But the big picture here is we have an entire planet that is going to take billions of people to fix. You can have money. We don't care about money. We care about what ends up happening. That's the bottom line here. Mm-hmm. Are there people that worked for them that could be quite helpful in all these situations? Telecommunications. Why? Can anybody explain to me why we ran fiber all over the world? You know, we've got enough LOEs out there. Well, you're less some now, but I have them. I have some LOEs that we could use, and we could recreate a radio frequency mesh. You know, and if we're using things like rhodium and other things that, you know, are fairly abundant, even though people claim it's not, you know, I don't need a microwave mesh anymore. I don't need to microwave every person and every plant and every animal on this planet. And I don't need your fiber. Fiber is meant for control. He who controls the fiber controls the data, which controls everything else that was attached to it. Yeah. We don't need it anymore. We don't need that. Do you know how long this is going to take, how much money this is going to take, and how many militaries could get involved in that? And doing it right? Mm-hmm. You know, there's a place for everyone. There's a place for the banks. There's a place for each one of you watching this right now. Please spend your time thinking about all the ways that things need to be fixed and focus on what it takes to get there. How much money does it cost? If you're going to build a clinic, down to the last nail, down to the cement, which I hope you use something else, but you'll have access to materials, science and research and development centers. This is where we're going. And we will do that with or without governments. We will do that with or without your militaries, because we have our own. We will do that with or without your intelligence agencies, because we have our own. But I'm again, for the last time, there's 8 billion people on this planet Earth that don't understand a word I'm saying. 3/4 of the alternative media that's going to watch this report doesn't understand what I'm saying. They're talking about the Brunson case and the damn orange guy. Who cares? He's not involved in any of this. He's dead. Mm-hmm. Half the people you're watching are wearing a mask, including your current president of the United States. And they put you here. But what means the most to you? Fixing the media. Let's all participate and stop talking about nonsensical government bullcrap, white hat joke of a conversation that's not real. It's not real. And start focusing on our planet for our kids and our grandkids and our nieces and our nephews and our future. Because this right here is what's going to save humanity. Not some orange fat guy in a suit. He is not Santa Claus, maybe Satan Claus, but he's not Santa Claus. So please, focus on what you can do to fix this planet. And I can promise you one thing, there's not a damn one of those people that are saving any babies and running through burning fires, and let alone the fat guy. Mm. Now, the only fire he's burning in is not on this planet or on this plane. So please, people, really start taking action now, because you are hours and days away from having to execute on something that you haven't even started, because you're telling me it's going to take money to pay someone else to do it for you. You know, I even had somebody ask if I can write up a transcript of my 2-hour-long conversation that I'm having with you right now, Sonny. Are you kidding me? I work 18 hours a day. That leaves me, you know, probably after I take a shower and, you know, go rest for a little bit, you know, watch some mindless television, that leaves me about 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
You want me to take minus one of those so I can do a transcript for you, so I can write up everything so that I can hand it to you so you don't have to listen. But I have to sit here and do this for you for 2 hours, and you can't even give the courtesy of actually, if you want the information, listening? You know? Yeah. The whole world, you know, I don't see a little guy here named Bob. You know, do you see Bob in there? I don't see a little guy named Bob. And the whole world revolving around Bob. You know, the sun rises and sets on the whole world. The world revolves around the sun, not you. You know, so please, really start taking a look at all of this stuff. It's important. The whole financial system has changed. There's no going back now. If the people from the Fed want to have a chat, that's great. You know, let's clean up the derivative mess. Let's clean up the mess you've made. Let's get rid of the commodities futures market. Let's start talking about how countries globally need to change. If you're willing to participate for the benefit of your citizens who are now the benefactors of the gold that is in your nation and registered in your banks, then you need to understand you work for them. Now, I'm not saying you take orders or anything like that. What I'm saying is, because even all of you don't understand what I just explained to you. And I know that. But you're going to have to learn. You're going to have to learn a new way. You're going to have to learn how your system used to operate and what it looks like now. You're going to have to understand at least some fraction of what non-fractional banking looks like. You know, creating colored lines, those are fractionated lines. We have non-fractional banking now. The world has changed. There's a place for you in it, but the world has changed. So again, make good life choices, guys. You know, if you are the deep state, make good life choices, because we know what happens to those that don't. And as for all of the rest of you that are probably thoroughly confused by now, if you are in the alt media, change the media. Stop talking about things of days old, things that don't matter, and start talking about how we're going to change the telecommunication system, how we're going to change the transportation system, food supply, health and wellness, childcare. How are we going to change the way we raise our children? What kind of food do we give our children? What are we going to do from here? Where are we going to get that pure food that's not going to corrupt their DNA? Do we need to have Doritos on the market? You know, full of additives and colors and salt and stuff that is horrible for your human. Do we need to have these things? What do we replace them with? What do we snack on now? You know, it doesn't have to be kale chips, because I know everybody's looking at me like, oh no, you know. No I like Doritos, but chips.
Just for the record, I like them.
I like the ones, yeah, they're good. And then the ones that have like the ranch and stuff on them, they're so good.
Pretty good.
But anyway, I'm just saying, you know, there's ways to make healthy food choices that are prepackaged and not radiated and sent around the world, you know, that have all the amino acids you need. And you can choose not to eat meat, and you can choose to have protein in a different way. But it's the amino acids that your body actually needs. So all these things need to be restructured. But yet, if I go on Rumble, if I go on BitChute, all I'm seeing is everybody talking about when some orange man and now Brunson. I don't even know who the heck that is, and nor do I care. So really put your work, your time, your effort, your thoughts, and your meditations on creating better systems. Every system that you find that is broken. And you'll find there's many more than just the few I mentioned here. And that's all part of the restoration plan and everything that goes into it. Agriculture, big one. You've got soil. You know, you've got poison in the soil. You've got poison in the air. You've got poison in just about every aspect of agriculture. The water you put on there. If you ever think about that, you know, the water that you put on the food when you're growing it is going to obviously affect the nutrients that are in the food. And you might walk away with arsenic, fluoride, lead, and even your healthy, alleged organic food. That ain't organic.
Right.
You know, we have to eat. And unfortunately, that then necessitates a need for heavy metal cleanses constantly and all of these things to make sure we get those out of our system. But it should never be this way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have a lot of work to do. Please, when you have free time, and I know that a lot of you spend a lot of time thinking that, you know, we're so concerned about Telegram and we're so concerned about these things, but that's not what Kim's doing. That's not what Lisa's doing. That's not what anybody's doing. This is what we're doing every single day. We've branched out thousands of different areas of agriculture so far. Thousands. That all need to change on a micro level in order to make the macro work. You know, and it's not about control. It's just about having an understanding of the system and breaking the system. But we have to do it in such a way that we don't kill 8 billion people in the process or just shock them, you know. Yeah. But we can do it. We can make healthy sodas. We can make all kinds of different things that aren't going to harm our kids. You know, these energy drinks, I can do it with all natural ingredients that'll give them plenty of energy without that jittery thing and without feeling terrible. We can do this together. We just have to replace the things that we have gradually in some cases and over time, you know, and make sure that those countries that are dependent on oil and gas and all of those things are compensated for that and release some of the technologies that I know that they have. So that's the restoration and you.
And I think it's important too, Kim, like they can start with whatever they know. Like people listening to this, they may be in the medical field. Maybe they are in transportation. Like it's not like you got to learn an entire new industry. I know media. That's what we're trying to do here at UNN is to change what you already know, right? So apply that knowledge that you went to school for, that, you know, you worked at a job for 20, 30, whatever years. Or if you're retired, you can still do this too. You know, this is about, And kids too, by the way. Don't rule out your kids, because I know when it comes to like changing the schools, that's the first thing I did is go to my kids. What do you not like about school now? What do you wish was different?
Sure.
You know?
Absolutely. Yep. I mean, listen to each other. It doesn't matter how young or how old you are. You know, this old mentality of I know better because I'm an elite, you know, and I have a yacht. I know better because, you know, I'm older. You know, and there are things that we have experienced in our age, by the time we hit our age, Sonny, you know, that are invaluable. But that's because we bumped our head up against the wall.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I bumped my head up against so many walls all around the world. I can't even believe it's still intact, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I learned from every single experience. That's the whole key here. I use the world and the deep state as my teacher in order to then understand them. And then, sorry guys, we destroyed them.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. Well, it had to end. Everything is a mess. You've made a mess everywhere. So let's clean it up. Let's make money together. Let's take care of this planet. And if it's going to be, it's up to you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that wraps up our update for Friday, December 30th. A great update from Kim today. Please share UNN with your friends and family. We need everyone to come together and restore our planet. When news happens in your area, record it and share it with us so we can share it with the world right here on UNN. Remember, as Kim just said, if it's going to be, it's up to me. It is up to all of us to come together and make this happen. So let's do it. I'm Съни Голт. Join us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the real news.